The state of Florida has just canceled Pride Month. And while the season of rainbows seemed like a tale as old as time, just as recently as a few years ago, it turns out Walt Disney World now may have a real struggle ahead as vacationers respond to Governor Ron DeSantis declaring June is the new month of faith and family. Hello folks, hello friends, welcome back yet again to the Pro Channel, where we as ever endeavor to uncover what's going down in entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve. And boy, oh boy, do we have big news today coming to you, especially when it comes to the Disney company, but also Universal and the others. Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, has just declared June is now the Faith and Family Month. Faith and Family Month in Florida. We'll tell you why this is an economic decision. Folks, we need you to decide to click that like button if you're so inclined, and let's dive into news right now. Florida joins a handful of other states with similar declarations, sparking criticism for conflicting with Pride Month, says Tampa Bay's 10. This one is by Atish Patel. It says, in a proclamation, Governor Ron DeSantis declared June as, quote, Faith and Family Month in Florida. An initiative, he says, encourages faith-based organizations, businesses, and community partners to support families and expresses appreciation to fathers and father figures. That's right, it's the month of dads. DeSantis joins a number of other Republican governors declaring June a month focused on families, including the governors of Arkansas and Indiana. Locally, Pinellas County commissioners signed their own Faith and Family Month proclamation. But critics argue the declaration sent a problematic message during a month traditionally recognized as Pride Month across the country. Dr. Byron Green Kalish, president of St. Pete Pride, told Tampa Bay News the timing creates the appearance of a competing message. Quote, usually when we have things that are planned in opposition or in direct competition with it, it's usually a reflection of disagreement with it. I think having a family celebration or making the month a family celebration is a bit disingenuous, because we could in fact choose any month to have that celebration. Well, I have this to say, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that having an entire month for anything is a little bit silly because it waters down. It desaturates the power of the message of whatever you're trying to say. And if we've got one day for veterans, if we've got one day for moms, if we've got one day for dads, then I think it's silly to have an entire month for bedroom preferences. Florida's Voice is covering it, and you can see right here, folks, the entire Faith and Family Month declaration. But this is going to have a huge deal, I think, on Disney. Is Disney going to respond to this? Disney has been such a supporter of Pride. Will Disney now support Faith and Family Month in the state of Florida at Walt Disney World? And you can see this is very religious in language. Some folks out there who are stringent upon the idea of separation of church and state might have a difficult time with this. I'm not going to weigh in on that. I'm interested in the entertainment aspect of it. We'll get to that in just a second, especially vacations. But it says, whereas faith is a foundational element that provides strength, hope, and moral guidance, shaping values of compassion, service, responsibility, and unity within our communities, the Christian faith has played a vital role in constructing our Constitution, laws, and ideals. And it continues on. It's a very religious, very pro-Christian statement from Ron DeSantis. Interesting that he's got that. All right, let's go now to a reporter from Florida's Voice reporting on this. It's Kennedy Owens. Here's what she has to say about Faith and Family Month in Florida.
So June has become the month that many Americans associate with Pride celebrations across the country. But Florida's governor is taking a different approach in his state. I'm Kennedy Owens, and here's what you need to know. Governor Ron DeSantis just signed a proclamation designating June as Faith and Family Month statewide, highlighting religious faith, traditional family structures, and fatherhood as foundations of strong communities. This is the document that encourages churches, faith-based organizations, nonprofits, and businesses to work together to support families through community partnerships, including connecting people in need with local resources.
Now, folks, go check out Florida Voice News. We want you to support them, of course. They're trying their best to cover what's happening in Florida. And my guess here, let me take a position that you may be surprised by. I'm going to be a cynic here, all right? I'm going to be a cynic as we look at the Tennessee Lookout. I'm going to be a cynic and say that I think that what Tennessee did, and I think Tennessee led the way on this, I think that Tennessee switching the month of June to being the Nuclear Family Month, which I don't think is a great name. I don't think you can market that very well. Like, it sounds like a family that's glowing green, the Nuclear Family Month, but whatever, okay? I think Tennessee started this. You all correct me in the comments. If there's a state that started this before Tennessee, tell me. But Tennessee is a vacation hub, right? In fact, if you don't know this, if you're not from the East Coast, or especially if you're not from the Southeast of the U.S., you might not know that it's kind of funny. In June, what happens so often is folks from across the country, they go down to Florida for the beaches, for Daytona, for the theme parks, for Miami, for the Everglades. And the people along the coast, right, the Floridians, the South Carolinians, everybody along the Gulf of America, they go to Tennessee, they go to the mountains, they go to North Carolina, right? They go to the mountains to get away from all of the tourists and everything. They love you, okay? They love you, the tourists. But anyway, Tennessee did this. June 4th is when this was published, but it's not when this was made. It was earlier than that. It says, as June kicks off Pride celebrations, Tennessee designates it Nuclear Family Month. A GOP resolution signed by Governor Bill Lee makes no policy changes, but serves as an official declaration that a nuclear family with a husband, wife, and children is God's design. Anita Wadwani is the writer here. And I'm going to posit this to you. I'm going to posit that Florida may have looked at this and said, wait, whoa. Families are going to decide now where they want to go on vacations based on Pride. Now, you all know, whatever you believe, right? I try to be very kind to everybody. I try to be open and, a place that everybody can go view the channel. So if you're a supporter of Pride, I want you to hear this from an economic standpoint. Okay, and if you're not a supporter of Pride, still hear this as an economic position that I'm trying to present to you. What if families across the US of A were deciding to go to Tennessee, or what if there was the fear that they were going to go to Tennessee more? They're going to go visit Dollywood, they're going to go visit the Smoky Mountains, they're going to go visit Nashville, right? What if that's where they were going to whatever percentage that is? If it's 1%, it matters. If it's 2%, it matters. And what if Florida, seeing these other states doing that, said to themselves, oh, now, whoa, we can't lose all these families because you all know that it had become a thing in Walt Disney World, right or wrong, but it had become a thing at Walt Disney World where some folks were saying, I'm not going during this particular time because I don't want egregious displays of affection. I don't want to explain things to my kids. And the month of June had become a time at Walt Disney World where sometimes some people felt like the message was such that they had to talk to their kids and they didn't want to do that on vacation. They want to have that discussion at home. They want to have that discussion, but they don't want to be preempted either. And some of you out there are saying, well, they should have to have the conversation, bro. They should have to have the conversation. It's 2020, whatever it is, 2026. They have to have the conversation. It's not for me to decide. It's not for you to decide. It's the parents' job to decide. And guess what else? We don't designate whatever the result is going to be economically. And so just cynically, the cynic part of me, okay, I don't want to disagree with Governor DeSantis. I don't want to make him seem like he's not fully authentic in what he's doing, the state is doing. But I just wonder, I wonder, did they see something in the economic forecast that made them say, whoa, we don't want to lose 1% or 2% or 3% of vacationers to Tennessee and these other states because they say, oh, wait, they're not doing this. Again, I'm not making any moral declaration for you. I'm just, and by not making any kind of moral declaration, what I hope is that you hear this and you say, yeah, there is a percentage chance of that. And then we can have a conversation about what's going on because, folks, we've told you, merchandise sales for Pride significantly down, corporations pulling out. This started prior to President Trump becoming the president, so I don't think it's necessarily associated with that. And look at this, something I don't think we ever thought we would see. Colleges backtrack on Pride Month, says Inside Higher Ed. Josh Moody writing this yesterday. Colleges are backtracking on what? Of all the places we thought we would see this, colleges, they're the last. It says, while many colleges are still celebrating Pride Month, a small number have deleted related social media posts, dropped out of local events, and stopped flying the rainbow flag. Pride Month is the latest casualty in higher education's broad retreat from political controversy, at least at some institutions. While numerous colleges and corporations blasted out messages supportive of the LGBTQ plus community on social media and held related events at the beginning of June, a few others quietly distanced themselves. Several posted and then deleted Pride Month messages on social media. Others have dropped out of local Pride events or issued directives preventing LGBTQ plus Pride flags from flying on campus. And dare I say, it's the plus sign that is causing this. Those moves come amid heightened scrutiny of the community under the Trump administration, as well as new state laws and system policies that restrict colleges from weighing in on issues such as gender and sexuality. In the last 2 years, more institutions have adopted institutional neutrality policies. Here are some of the examples. UNC Chapel Hill had posted, the Tar Heels are for everyone, with a rainbow pattern. But it was quickly deleted, not before it was screen captured by conservative activists who blasted Chapel Hill for the statement. Chapel Hill officials cited institutional neutrality policies as the reason for the move. The social post in question was taken down because it violated the UNC system's equality policy, which requires neutrality on political and social issues. All right, the cynic in me has to weigh in again. And by the way, I could go through example after example after example in this article. We're not going to do that, but I'm going to give you my thought on why this is happening. What I think they're up to here, folks, is I believe that colleges are in a major hard spot right now as they're battling against AI, and they're trying to find some way to get students to enroll. There is more scrutiny now than ever before that perhaps college is not worth the money. I'm not telling you one way or the other. I'm just telling you that's the perception right now among young people who say, what am I going for? I can learn everything online, and I can get a job, and I don't have to be in debt 10, 20, 30, 40,000, which, by the way, if you want to be a teacher or a doctor, you got to go to college, right? But not everybody's got to go to college to get a job. Okay, so the colleges are hurting for tuition. And at the same time, what have we showed you in the data? We've showed you in the data over the past few videos, and you can go find those, folks. We recommend you go look at the videos where we've been covering Pride. From the entertainment angle, by the way, young people, they're the ones tuning out to this. They view this as old fogey stuff. They view this as their grandpas and grandmas were into Pride Month. They don't, it doesn't matter if you feel it's virtuous. It matters that they feel it is the older generation that does it. And they're tuning it out. So why would the colleges pull back? Why would Florida? Florida has benefited so greatly from Pride Month, some might say, some might argue, because of all the folks who descend into Disney in the month of June. Why are they all getting away from it? Yeah, maybe it's religious. Yeah, maybe it's political. Yeah, maybe it's moral. But there's a part of old Pro here who says, maybe it's economic, maybe it's financial, and maybe the times are changing such. Maybe the polling is changing such that they feel this is the time to follow what some of these states are doing that might be taking their tourism away. Just a thought. Now, here's the question for Disney. And I don't suspect that Walt Disney World is going to celebrate Faith and Family Month whatsoever. I don't think there are going to be any murals at Walt Disney World, even though they've got very few things still remaining at Disney World for Pride Month. They've got a couple of murals, and they got a slushie at Magic Kingdom, and that's it. That's it. So if you think Disney is full-blown still Pride, think again. They've done the same thing. They're disinclined from doing it, just like the other corporations, most of the corporations. And we've covered this. I'm not going to cover it again. But I don't expect Disney World to follow this one, because I don't think they want to get into a situation where they expose how many people would go to the Faith and Family murals versus the Pride Month murals. Does that make sense? Does everybody see how that would go? Imagine if people were flocking to the Faith and Family murals. They were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Disney's got a reference to family and to Christianity or to faithful Jews, or we could go through all the religions, right? I don't think Disney's going to do that. I don't think they want to set up that standard. I don't think they want to set up the opportunity, the possibility that people would go to one or the other. That's not what they're about. But it puts them in a hard spot, because without a doubt, somebody on social media is going to start covering this. Somebody out there is going to say, let's go find out why Disney's not celebrating this. Let's go. And what if you told a Disney cast member, I am not telling you to do this? What if somebody goes to a Disney cast member and says, Happy Faith and Family Month? Because I'll guarantee if you go and say Happy Pride Month to most cast members, they're going to say Happy Pride Month back, right? So what happens if you say Happy Faith and Family Month? See, this is the problem. Disney's going to have to train some people on this, because this is the problem for them that they're now stuck in. But I believe, again, this is economic. Now, it also may be all of these things. I'm not doubting the authenticity of the movement. But I think that Florida said to themselves, hey, we might lose 1, 2, 3, 5% of families who decide, hey, we want to go support what's happening in Tennessee. We want to go to the Smoky Mountains. We want to go to Nashville, do the Country Music Hall of Fame, all that kind of stuff. We'll put off on Disney. And I think Florida made a decision here. I think it's a savvy decision, maybe, economically. But you let me know down in the comments below. Pride Month essentially canceled in the Sunshine State of Florida. All right, folks, it's your turn. Click that like button. Drop a comment down below. Join a community dialogue today. We'd love to hear what you have to say, whether you agree or disagree. Be kind, be polite, treat everybody as God's babies because they are. And folks, near and far, we'll see you real soon. More content on the way, including the Pro Show back again tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, keep learning, keep growing. And until the next time, keep having fun.